Hi students, welcome to Module 9. This is the module where we're going to start the conversation about working for the federal government. What does it entails? What type of assessments do you need to do in order to get an idea what the level of language proficiency is needed for the federal government? So I will be discussing your California language accessibility in terms of the election material so that we also looked into California and what the government requires because an election year is coming up. I want you to assess some election ads, and then I will talk about your homework and your class exercise and your discussion. So there's a PDF that I would like for you to review in Module 9. It talks about the language access for the register of voters. So please take a look at what your county. I know that there's some students that are not from Orange County. They're from up in Northern California. As our class, I don't know if you know, it's offered through the virtual campus as well for the California community colleges. So sometimes we do have students from various parts of California. So take a look at this, and I just want you to keep in mind that this particular language access was not passed until recent years, 2016 to be precise. So what does that mean in terms of having access to voting? And especially since the last few elections have been very controversial in terms of some sectors alleging voting fraud. So, what does that mean for you if you're coming into an industry where you're going to be an agent of change, really, because you're going to be advocating for those that have limited English language proficiency, right? So, it doesn't matter what area you work in or decide to work in, be it medical, legal, educational, or any other field that you want or are already currently working in. I want you to take a look at this so that you, in the discussion also, you're going to talk about what does this mean for the population, for the immigrant community, for the population that you're going to be working with. And again, so take a look at your particular county. This one it talks about and specifically poll workers. There's a very well in California. This is the one for California. We know that in especially the last election where there was an allegation of voter fraud. We know that there were even people outside the polls intimidating voters, right? So that was something that kept some from going to vote. And then there were also some sectors that were targeting ethnic groups. So keep that in mind when you read that, as the purpose of this class is also to create awareness in around your surroundings and the political environment that we're in. So I used some of the ads from the last presidential election so that you could have an idea of the top expenders. Pretty much the cycle repeats itself, but I just wanted to, especially because we already talked about the purchasing power of Latinos and how important it is and as being the top purchasing power in the nation for the Latino community. So what are some of the agencies that go after this money? So there's some commercials there for you to view. There's no submission required. All you need to do is just have an idea what type of spending are we talking about. And then homework 9, you're going to do an assessment. This might look familiar to some of you if you took my BA 130 class. I do have some of the students in the past have taken this assessment because there is an interest of some in working in the federal government. So why are we even talking about the federal government? I want you to have a very wide perspective of options and to be open to exploring all options available out there, especially for those of you that are incredibly fluent. I've always had some that are very, very fluent in my classes, and you could now perhaps be working for the federal government. There's also some of you that need to build on proficiency. But this will give you an idea where you are. It's important for you to know where you are and where are your areas of need. So basically what this is this is the government's testing that they do for different various agencies, for working in the FBI, for working in the CIA, the Department of State, Homeland Security. And for those of you that are very adventurous, that maybe this could be a good opportunity to travel and perhaps work at an embassy. So there's a lot also of opportunities to work in the foreign service. So just keep all your options open. So this is the reason that I want you to have an idea of the level of proficiency that you would need for working in the federal government. So make sure that you look into this particular rating and do not be too judgmental of yourself. I would like for you to, again, have an open mind and think about the possibilities. So say you're looking and you're like, okay, well, I'm not even at that level. Where am I? So try to find one of those videos that resembles you and then look at the other level to see what it is that you need to improve. And you'll have a better understanding once you actually see this. There's also a link there for you to explore careers from about the federal government. And I want you to look at that video from the CIA and also from other careers in the Foreign Service and what would that entail. Again, for class exercise 9, there's a couple of ads that where I want you to take into account the language that is being used for those ads, and then have your opinion on differences of how they're targeting the population. Discussion 9 has to do with the register to vote efforts on behalf of the Latino community. So I want you to have a very critical thinking hat on when you read this and when you do the discussion, because especially considering our climate, the conservative climate that we're in right now, more than a long time ago, we lived this, right? It's just history repeating itself. But here we are trying to promote bilingualism and the importance of language access, where we are in a climate that really frowns upon um, being having this type of access. So, to give you an example, under the Trump administration, many government agencies completely got rid of Spanish websites or their counterparts in other languages. So now they're bringing it back again. So a lot of that was lost, that was gained for many years in terms of language access. That was completely gone. There were hardly any federal agencies, and many states too that are very conservative, that completely got rid of language access. So keep a very critical thinking hat on. So when you answer these questions, I'm also asking you to think about the political climate and how does that affect you if you're going to be advocating for those that are limited English proficient. How does this voting affect their language access, and why is it that you need to be aware of that, right? Because here we are promoting bilingualism and the importance of speaking two languages, and we have seen many videos. um, I have seen many videos, and I'm not sure, maybe some of you have seen some videos that have gone viral of some instances of intolerance in many places where people are persecuted, if you want to call it that way, for speaking other language than English. So just put that critical hat thinking, your thinking hat on, and answer those questions with that mindset. And then here I just wanted to make a reference of the importance of translating. When you're translating, please go, if you're doing anything, for example, we're going to do something on the US Census Bureau in another module, but when we work with something that has to do with the government agency, don't reinvent the wheel. Go to that government agency and see what they already have. For example, in the past, when I've done the SBA business guide, that is text that I completely got and downloaded from the SBA. So let's not reinvent the wheel. Always look to see what the agency has. So we're not going to say, oh, I'm going to name this agency such and such for this translation. No, we're going to go by the official name. So there are some links there to review. Again, keep in mind that all the modules are due the Sunday of that week. And very important that you review my weekly audios. There's a reason why I post weekly audios every week in your homepage in Canvas. I give a brief synopsis of what's to expect in the module. So make sure not only that you watch the video lectures because it's necessary the time, this is how I'm going to be teaching you the subject matter, but it's also necessary so that you can also be engaged in this process of learning. And I'm trying to keep the videos shorter, but do please take notes and make sure that you review all the pages. There's some that do not require a submission, but I do want you to review the content. For example, what I mentioned in terms of language accents for the register of voters, because I want you to keep in mind that that was just recent when all of that was really enforced. So it hasn't been taking place for a long time in California. It was made recent that the law was changed to require it, to make it mandatory as of 2016, which is really recent history. So that concludes our module 9. I look forward to your contributions and have a great rest of the week.